Sean, tell us about your business and how it makes money.
We run a 7-figure digital marketing company here in Philadelphia. We essentially charge core services such as web design, SEO, social media, PPC, pay-per-click advertising, and video content as well to small to medium-sized businesses that do anywhere, I would say, from 100,000 to 5 million in revenue.
200K to 5 million. And what was the revenue in 2025?
2025, we did about, 3 million.
3 million in revenue in 2025. And what is the 3-year goal revenue wise?
We want to hit 10.
10 million? Okay, in 3 years. All right. And most of your customers, give me your ideal customer profile. What does it look like?
For the most part, it's the business that I just described with a service-based business. So plumbing, HVAC, roofing, etc. They're easily found on Google. They maybe are a founder-led business where they have a couple technicians. But primarily, we're working with said founder to execute on those services.
I see. And how are you finding those customers right now?
Well, the interesting thing is there's a lot of different ways we do acquisition. So the number one way I would say is through AI SEO. People find us on ChatGPT, Gemini, Grok, Perplexity, number one. Number two, it's through social media, Meta, YouTube. A lot of our content, someone especially is on Google, they find what we do, they go on YouTube, same thing with Meta. Third reason is ads. We spend a lot of money on ads, about $4 or $5 grand a month, Meta ads, Google ads, all that good stuff. Fourth thing I think is email marketing as well. So we send out a lot of cold email. And then 5 is cold calling. We have a whole sales team of about 4 reps currently that are all part-time, and they'll just hit the phones.
I see. Oh, so yeah. So you're pretty much hitting all the acquisition channels, right? So you're doing SEO, you're doing social media, so these are all organic. And then you're doing ads, so paid ads, you're doing email marketing, and then you're also doing cold calling. If you have to split based on these acquisition channels, like where are the majority of the customers coming from? Let's split them up like percentage wise, part of the pie, right?
We can kind of just group and say 40%. I would say no. I would say 50% are coming from ads, SEO, and social media. 25 is going to come from email, and then 25 is going to come from the cold calling.
25% from email, 50% from ads. So what was the split between paid versus organic?
Between that, I would say it's pretty even for the most part, man. I would split that up quite evenly.
Okay. So 25% ads, 25% organic, 25% email marketing. And what was the final 25%?
Cold calling.
Oh, cold calling. I see. Interesting. That's a very interesting mix. Why did you add cold calling instead of like going heavier on the ads, organic and emails?
It's a great question. We are increasing our spend on that. It's just one of those things where our reps, we don't pay them a base. They're part-time with a zero, stipend, monthly retainer, whatever you want to call it. There's no base. So they only get paid via commission. So what we do is we actually scrape leads for them, give them to our reps. They're not cold calling per se. It's not like cold leads. It's really warm leads, I would say. It's not hot leads, but it really is warm. So giving you an example, right? We have a company, they scrape a bunch of data for us on suspended business profiles, right? On Quora, Reddit, YouTube, Facebook groups, all these platforms. We then give that to our reps. They call, they close, and then we, just do business that way. So, it's paying itself off and then some. And the nice thing as well is we get a lot of retainers and upsells from that service. So yeah, it's fantastic.
So tell us about the suspended business listings. What does that mean?
Yeah. So pretty much, I'm sure everyone who's listening to this knows what a Google business profile is. If
right.
the mood for some Mexican food, you Google, best Mexican restaurant near me. Have a bunch of photos, have a bunch of reviews, whatever. A lot of businesses, man, they're getting suspended, specifically for the demographic that I just talked about in regards to like our ideal client persona. They're getting suspended for God knows what. They have an AI system with Google that isn't doing proper fulfillment and isn't giving business owners clear answers. So the problem is these people can't make money. They can't do their LSA ads. They can't find, get clients on their Google business profile. So what do? So they'll go to Google, go to ChatGPT, they'll find us or some reputable company, and then we'll get them up and running, and then we'll sell them a retainer on the back end.
So when Google suspends a listing, do they publish it, or how do you find those? Like, or you just go business by business in a local city, and then you see a suspended tag? Like, how are you finding these?
So a lot of the times they find us, right? They call us, they make a lot of content around this on YouTube and our ads and whatnot. But specifically for how we find them specifically, we go on, like I said, Facebook groups, Quora, Reddit, they're complaining about, and the other thing too is a Google forum, right? The Google Help
Mm.
Center. They'll say, oh my gosh, like my business profile is suspended. It's the only way I get clients, blah, blah, blah. I have that company that I referred to earlier, scrape that lead, send it to our sales team. Hey, John Smith Plumbing, your business profile has been suspended. We saw your profile, we saw your post on the Google forum, and it's a much more organic conversation, right? Because all of my
Mm.
guys are American. They obviously speak English as their native
Yeah.
language. So it's a very good conversation because there are a lot of people overseas that do this type of service, but they can't close and build trust because they have somewhat of like an accent, and it just doesn't create that good synergy, if that makes sense.
Right. So you're saying the cold calling team that you have, that's the team that's based out of US, and those are the people calling the suspended business owners, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Okay. And they're fine working with no base. Why is that? Like, how did you, or is that you just give them a generous commission?
It's a little bit of both, man. I mean, if they're not making a base, we need to incentivize them with commissions and a lot of leads. Like it's one of those things where for me, I want to make sure my guys eat as much as they want to. And they have other roles. It's just an expectations thing of like the guys I have right now, they're all rock stars, right? I have a team of 4 people. I can have a lot more, but the people I have are really, really good, solid A players, man. They're hungry, they're savages, right? So okay, a good salesperson, they don't really need a base. If they're that good at closing, all you got to do is send them a bunch of leads, have them have a good commission rate. Our commission we pay for those guys is 20%. And then on top of
Mm.
that, for my vice president of sales, who's managing that whole team, I give him a
Mm.
small spiff off the deals that they close because I
Mm.
want to incentivize my VP more to do well and continue building the team.
Right. And what does the sales process look like? So you call them and then say you get their voicemail. So you are leaving a voicemail and then they return the call. Like tell us about the sales process.
Yeah, I love this, man. I love the intricate nitty gritty of it. This is fun. So here's what we do. We have a whole system and a whole script, right? For the most part, we have a whole script. And really, it's talking about the pain points, the emotional points, right? Because
Mm.
at the end of the day, people aren't going to buy off facts. They're going to buy off emotion. And it's one of those things where there is no greater lever, in my opinion, in this digital marketing world to pull on when it comes to emotion other than a suspended Google profile, right? Because people, you got to be their part-time therapist sometimes, man. You really do. You have to listen to this story. I have my sales guys understand calls that I've had that my VP of sales had over the years, and they're very empathetic. So that's the first thing we do. Second thing is we qualify them. We put them into a bucket. Hey, you want to get your business profile up and running, right? Because you want to scale your business, right? That kind of stuff. So forward thinking, proactive thinking. And then what we do is it's a very simple offer, right? It's pretty much we get a deposit up front, 50% of
Mm.
that set quote. And we say, listen, if we can't do it, we will simply refund you in full, right? Who doesn't want to do that? The only thing you're
Mm.
losing is time and not necessarily money, which to some people, I mean, you could make an argument one's more important than the other, but in the immediate, if someone can't put food on the table for their family or pay their mortgage, money
Mm.
is a lot more important than wasted time. So
Right.
that's normally what we do. We get their information, we shoot them out the quote, they accept it, they get the business documents sent to us that we need to send to our Google team, and then we facilitate the whole process of the fulfillment.
Also, you're working with the Google team to reinstate their business profile.
Yeah, I mean, the nice thing about, excuse me, what we have fulfillment wise, man, is we have the current, I shouldn't say current, but we have a platinum product expert who used to work for Google as one of the main people to
Mm.
reinstate these profiles. So it's unbelievable. I mean, it actually really, really is the best person we can have on the team. And the fact that my business partner Mac used to work at Google, I used to be at Google as a photographer on the Google Street View team. It adds a lot of credibility in that and legitimacy in those sales and people we talk to.
Right. What are the top reasons Google is suspending these listings?
Oh man, how much time do you have? It's I would say the number one thing is inconsistent information. So let me give you an example. If you have a plumbing business, right? And on your Google profile, it's 123 Pine Street, Suite
Mm.
123, right? But on your website, it's 123 Pine Street, Suite or Office 123. You see, there's a little difference there between suite, the word suite, and the word office or number, right? So
Right.
it's one of those things where, as simple as that is, the AI system with Google will sniff that out and make a change, right? Other reasons talking about inconsistent information is going to be about, okay, on this, profile here, you say you have an office space, but it's actually your residential address where you live. That's a huge no-no. You used to be able to get away with that, but you can't anymore.
Hmm.
There's so many different things, but if I had to give you a general answer to that, it's inconsistent information with Google, which is not only going to hurt the Google profile and your online local search engine optimization, it's also going to hurt your AI SEO because AI is not going to recommend a company that doesn't have consistent name, address, phone number, consistent information. It's
Right.
very straightforward. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, AI SEO is a topic we're going to get into very soon. I just want to close this loop first because I have some lingering questions. So you're making these calls to suspended business listing owners, and then you're helping them reinstate. You have local contacts, you have experience with Google, and that helps you get it resolved ASAP. Now, does the offer stops there? Like, are they it got reinstated? They paid you for helping them. Is the service stopped right there, or then you do the upsells into, oh, you should look into like maybe we can fix your website, maybe we can do SEO for you, maybe we can do PPC for you, maybe we can do video marketing. So how does that conversation look like?
Well, it's always a conversation, right? It just depends where in the sales cycle we like to talk to them. So, for instance, if someone has such a pain point, and especially, I think being able to tell, like, if a client just doesn't need sold to, and what I mean by that is, if I have a solution that's going to make him happy or make her happy, great, let's do that. I don't want to necessarily sell them, oh, you need a new, like, I'm sure I can find some stuff. Oh, you need a website, you need this, you need that. But if I was to say that on the first call, especially without proving myself and fixing their Google profile, they're going to get really annoyed, think that I don't really care about them in the sense of, oh, they're just a sale, they're just, another number out there, right? Rather than me actually helping them, right? So
Hmm.
it's a little bit of a give and a take. If I have another client on, to play devil's advocate here, that isn't as emotional and is receptive to those ideas, what I might offer them, to give you an example, is I might say, listen, John Smith, talking about the whole plumbing company example, right? I will fix your Google profile for free in exchange for the fact that we can sign a 6-month retainer to do your local SEO and work on your website, right?
Hmm.
It's really that simple. So it's a little bit of a give and a take. We have to be receptive as providers at the end of the day. What is the best solution for a client? Because at the end of the day, the worst thing I want to do is talk to someone, build really solid rapport, and then oversell them and have them be really pissed off and then be like, all right, this Sean guy, he's a complete like
Yeah.
sleazy salesman. He tried
Yeah.
to just oversell me rather than fix my core problem and then upsell me on the back end.
Yeah, yeah. It's an interesting topic. We'll get into the offer structure as well very very soon.
Yeah.
Have you heard of the closer framework by Alex Hermosi?
I have. Yeah, it's a great
Yeah.
framework. Yeah.
So it starts with C, which is like clarify why the person is there. L is like label them with a problem or a pain point. O is overview of their past pain experiences. S is sell them vacation, not the plane flight. And E is what is E? Explain away their concerns. And R is reinforce their buying decision. Right. So
Yeah.
what do you think of that framework? Do you use parts of it or just your general thoughts?
I love it. Hermosi's, just to show you how much I love Hermosi, let me take a look at this. I don't know if you can see this. It might not be coming
Yeah,
through, but
yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah. Your book,
100,
yeah, money models, yeah.
yeah, Money Models. Yeah, fantastic book. Yeah, I think it's great. We emulate that in our sales process. It might be a couple extra steps here and there, but for the most part, that's exactly how we like to sell. And it's the right way to do it, right? I think you're setting good expectations.
Yeah.
You're coming across authentic. You're not trying to oversell. You're really just providing value at the end of the day.
Yeah. Um, speaking about the offer now, so like four types of offers. Hormozy talks about it. We have the attraction offer, we have upsell, downsell, and continuity offer, right? So you mentioned, you sometimes offer those free offers, like, oh, we'll fix it for free as long as you sign up for this 6-month retainer, right? So I'm guessing you're starting out with an attraction offer and trying to upsell them into a continuity offer. Is that the model that you're using?
Exactly. Yeah. And what we'll do then is once we have that attraction offer, they go with that, and then we'll upsell them. To take it a step further, what we like to do sometimes is incentivize them. Hey, if you pay in full for those 6 months, we'll give you X% off that monthly thing, right? So taking it a step further to get more revenue in and more cash in, which is ultimately going to be more profit. The biggest thing for that, which I didn't think Alex mentions too much in the book, or maybe he did and I missed it, is you want to be cognizant of your costs, because if your expenses are too high, you need to make sure you can float that discount for the foreseeable future, so you're actually not losing money once everything settles. So yeah, that's the framework that I do: attraction, upsell. If we need to downsell in some sort of capacity, then so be it. But yeah, I like to try to get as much money in as possible that makes sense for me and the client. Yeah.
Hmm. There's another principle I discuss in my book. Like, oh yeah, so I wrote a book, The Land Business, recently, which is more of a core principles book from a land business perspective. Um, I talk about this concept of emotion versus logic in a sale. So emotion starts the sale, but logic sustains it. So I wanted to get your thoughts on that, and if you are seeing that in your sales experience as well. Like, people, like, say their listing just got revoked for whatever reason, so they're feeling emotional, right? And then they're like, oh, I want to hire Sean right away. But it's really the logical reasoning behind, well, how much it will cost, and what's the, like, 6-month retainer looks like, right? Because if you don't sell them logically and you just focus on the emotion, you tend to get more refunds, you tend to get, like, more, like, backouts or buyer's remorse. So what are
Yeah.
your thoughts on that principle, and if you agree with it or not?
I'll give you a good example. Let's just say I'm in Chicago, Illinois, and I'm trying to make friends at a Chicago bar, right? Now, as a logical person, I believe this not just as the example, but I do believe this is the case. If I was to say, oh, yeah, Michael Jordan is so much better than LeBron, right? I'm going to get a lot of people. People are going to be cheering me, maybe buying me drinks, right? That's logic in their eyes, right? That's logic that they can follow, right? I can, make them laugh, emotional. I can tell a story, but I feel like people intrinsically, they gravitate towards people like Hermosi because logically everything just makes sense. And to a Chicago person who likes the Bulls, Michael Jordan's their second entity, right, or deity, whatever it is, right? They believe so highly of him. So it's one of those things where if I'm making these statements and I have, oh yeah, Michael Jordan's better than LeBron, just using like a kind of cliche example there, they're going to take me a lot more seriously. If I say the opposite, oh yeah, LeBron, he's the GOAT, Michael Jordan's nothing, too crazy, they're not going to take me as serious. So back to you, if I was to sell somebody, I want to be, and this is why it's so important to be an expert in your field, right? To know exactly what you can say anything, but if you want to be very specific, just tell them exactly how it is. If I'm very straightforward with the person, I'm telling them, something about a Google profile, and for whatever reason, maybe they do some audit and they get that information that I told them, and it's reinforced. Now they're going to believe me more than ever. So it's one of those things. Yeah, you have to have logic that strings along the way, because people are going to agree with you more and continue to want to hear from you. I think, to your point, the connection breaks when you are not logical, or maybe you're not being as forthcoming, and your trust just kind of goes out the window, because that's what it is too, right? It's trust, and how well you can trust somebody is how logical they are, in my opinion. So yeah, that's a great
Yeah.
concept.
Yeah, I mean, we see it on our land side as well. Like, a lot of people, we sell on owner financing. A lot of times we'll be like, oh, $500 down, 500 per month for like 3 years or whatever. And people, like, who have never bought land before, they'll get excited and they'll be like, whoa, I didn't even know you guys existed. I want to buy 4 of them, right? And they'll be
Right.
like, I want to buy 4 of them. I was like, perfect, welcome to buy four. And then we send them the contract and we never hear from them ever again. And
Yeah.
every now and then they'll, like, write an email saying, oh, I apologize, I got too excited, I can't afford these, this and that.
Yeah.
And now we have kind of realized, when we're on the sales calls with them, we kind of like, if someone, if we've seen a pattern now. So if someone says, oh, I want to buy like 5 properties, we kind of like unsell them. We're like, well, why don't we start with one, right? Why don't we,
Yeah.
let's talk about your budget and start with one. And then as you start making payments, you build some history with us. Then, we'll look at the second one. We're not going anywhere. So yeah, so I'm glad it's the principle works on your side as well. So we talked about the offer. So you are using all 4 different types of offers, attraction, upsell, downsell, continuity. We talked about cold calling. So you have this dedicated team for like a very specific use case. And I'm guessing you're seeing a lot of suspended business listings because you have like 4 people. Is this the only use case for the cold calling team, or are there other scenarios as well?
There's other scenarios as well, but from what I've seen, man, it's the perfect entry to momentum, right? And I think it's the easiest way that my sales reps can make a lot of volume in terms of sales at a smaller commission per sale, but over time, per month, it adds up because we have different bonuses. Oh, if you hit 10 sales a month, you get this. If you get X amount of revenue in, I mean, we have a lot of different incentives, right? But it's perfect because we give them so many of those suspended Google leads. They
Hmm.
upsell into a retainer. Whereas if I had someone just coming in and they were going to sign a retainer, some of those sales reps, they just don't know digital marketing well, but they know suspensions because it's a very
Hmm.
easy thing to understand. With digital marketing, that's a whole nother world that I would need to spend months or potentially even years teaching them on. And I just think as a sales rep that's part time that has zero base with my company, the
Hmm.
lever to pull in regards to leverage is those suspensions because they can make good money fast. They can upsell retainers, which they get a spiff on 10% of every retainer they sell. And then we
Hmm.
pay them as well on a monthly basis, right? So it's one of those
Hmm.
things we're constantly offering these incentives to the sales reps, and it's been working. I mean, very, very well. Like these guys are crushing it. So yeah,
Hmm.
there's a lot of things that we could do. But I think for the most part right now, the suspensions is going to be good. Now, we do have one person who is a full time rep with us that we actually just brought on, and he's going to be selling retainers like that, right? He's going to be like
Hmm.
in it. He knows digital marketing, he knows HubSpot, like Google and Meta and all these things, right? TikTok.
Hmm.
Um, so he's an outlier, but for the majority of the sales team, yeah, the GMB suspensions, entry point in the door, upsell in the back end with the retainer.
Hmm. Okay. So that's good. We covered cold calling aspect. Let's talk about organic. So that's quarter of your marketing effort.
Yeah,
And so you mentioned within organic, you mentioned AI SEO, right? So tell us what AI SEO is and how is it different than regular SEO?
yeah. So regular SEO is if you were to go on Google or Bing. Bing's not really important, honestly. If you were just to go on Google and type in, best plumbers near me, right? And I'm in Philadelphia, so you would find a list of plumbers. That's pretty straightforward. With AI SEO is it's how well you rank on Grok, Perplexity,
Hmm.
ChatGPT, Gemini, right? And the cool thing is more people are using this now than ever because it's a better option than Google. And here's what I mean. If I was to say, God forbid, I have a leak and for my toilet and I need a plumber or whatever, right? I'm going to say, ChatGPT or whatever, I need an emergency plumber now. Who is the best one in Philadelphia who doesn't charge me an arm and a leg, but has really good reviews, right? If I type that same search into Google, Gemini, because it's synced with Google, right, might spit me out something, but I'm just talking about an organic search. It's not going to know what to do. You know what I mean? Just
Right.
from like this, because it's so specific. I would need to Google just best emergency plumbers in Philadelphia, and then I would have to do my own research when I don't really have that much time, right? Because time is of the essence on that certain thing. So those
Hmm.
are the two differences between regular
Right.
SEO and AI SEO.
So if I'm asking, oh, I need a plumber right away, give me someone, local to me, usually ChatGPT would recommend like not a lot, maybe like few options. So it's not going to be like Google where it give you like million pages and you go next, 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 next. It's
Yep.
just going to be like 3 or 4 options, right? So
Yep.
how do you how do you optimize for that? Because if you're not in top 3, you might not even get recommended.
Yeah. Just for Google? or for
No,
AI?
just this is like Chat GPT
Yeah.
style. Yeah.
So I think it really boils down to three things. The first one, like I mentioned earlier, is having consistent information online. So, what does that look like? Your address, your name, your phone number, but also your categories as well, right? Having
Hmm.
categories and specifically your primary category, that needs to be the biggest focus and the most consistent, right? It needs to be the same on your Google page, it's the same thing on the website, it's the same thing on your social media. Because remember, all of these AI platforms are going to take all of that information. And if you have one or two inconsistencies, you're going to get knocked right out of the running. So that's one easy way you can
Hmm.
get up in ranking. Number two is activity. You want to have active photos and showcasing, I don't want to say maybe activity, but proof. You want to show proof that you are who you say you are. What that looks like is having a service based business take photos of a job in Philadelphia, in
Hmm.
South Philly, or whatever the case is, of them doing a plumbing job in this case, right? And posting it to their Google profile, to the website, because what's going to happen is the AI is going to say, okay, does this company work in Philadelphia? Obviously they do, but what's the proof of it? Can they have videos? Can they have photos of them in a certain area, right? And then to take it a step further, they need to geotag those photos with a coordinate, longitude, and latitude area in Philadelphia with that key phrase, emergency plumber in Philadelphia, whatever the case is. And then AI is also going to draw from that too. So I think if you're doing those three things, those are very actionable things that I think every business owner can just utilize. But that's one of the easiest ways for free they can rank higher on those AI platforms.
Right. So to summarize, consistency, social proof, and geotagging. Are
Yep.
those the three? Okay.
Yep.
So when companies are hiring you, those are the biggest things you look at, right, to improve their AI SEO. Correct?
Exactly. Yep.
Okay. What else are you doing in organic marketing? You mentioned video. Like, are you doing YouTube? Like, tell us about like long form versus short form. What do you guys focus on?
Yeah, we do both, man. YouTube's been really good to me. I got to be honest, because we're doing both. So every single day, I'll post a couple reels on my YouTube channel. Right, I'll post short form video of me talking about suspensions or what have you. It doesn't matter. And then what I also will do is I'll just do a raw video live stream on my
Hmm.
YouTube channel for, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes. I'm talking about suspended Google profiles or local service ads or whatever the case is, digital marketing related. And it's so funny. I am starting to get a lot of people calling me from these YouTube videos because they are finding me. It's actually so funny. This is a perfect example. There was a gentleman in South Philly who was a roofer. He is a roofer. And he found me from ChatGPT by Googling what are the top rated Google reinstatement experts in Philadelphia. That's what he actually typed in on ChatGPT, and Momentum 360 Sean Boyle popped up.
Hmm.
So that's an example on how we're actually able to rank and monetize this whole thing. So yeah, YouTube's great, man. I think making content's one of the easiest things a lot of people can do to get more leads.
Right. Okay. So you're doing YouTube lives and you're doing short form as well. Okay. So we talked about cold calling. We talked about organic. Let's talk about email marketing. Tell us about your strategy there.
Yeah. So I think with email marketing, people, I mean, I could spend a lot of time on this, but like the brass tacks value for you and your audience, bro, is people spend way too much time on the first email and making it just so long,
Hmm.
no one even reads it, right? And the reason no one reads it is because they don't have time, they don't know who you are, and it's just like there's a bunch of notes and whatnot. It doesn't work, right? So what I do for all of my cold emails, let's just say, for instance, I'm trying to get more hospice clients for local SEO, right? Something like that. What I'll do is I will simply say, this is a pitch that we use. Hey, John Smith, comma, I see you're a marketing manager at XYZ hospice company in certain area. It's funny, we've actually helped this company like yourself scale and get more leads, whatever the value add is there. Metric, put it in like a case study, whatever it is, put like a number in there. Period. Next sentence. Would you want to talk about this? Would you have time to talk? Blah, blah, blah. That 3 sentence thing, it's right off the rip, right? And I'll, to make another point too, I'll probably add on, hey, this is Momentum 360. We used to work for Google, blah, 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 whatever it is. So that's what we do. And then on top of that, that's how we're able to generate a lot of replies and a lot of leads. So many people, I think, just blow it out of the water and they spend way too much time in that first email.
It's interesting. So you mentioned cold emails. I, for whatever reason, thought this was like email nurture for your existing clients. But you're talking about cold emails, right?
Yeah, and we can talk about warm emails too. Like we have a whole audience in MailChimp that we monetize as well. But we can go
Yeah.
into that too if you want.
Yeah, no, actually I had a question on the cold email strategy. So you're writing this short email, you're personalizing it. Are you sending it one by one, or are you using a software to blast to like a bigger audience?
Yeah, we'll for the most part use like what's it called? Um, Off the top of my head, it's so what we'll do normally is we'll use a lead scraping tool like a D7 lead finder, right?
Mm.
And then we'll maybe use Apollo to send out all those cold emails. So Apollo is great. I can't recommend Apollo enough. It's fantastic. There's a lot of other platforms out there, but yeah, that's for the most part what we'll do.
Is apollo.com? What's the website?
Yeah, let me see. Actually, I think it's Apollo. It's Apollo.io.
Okay.
Apollo.io. Yeah.
All right. So it helps you like send multiple emails at once. How is it different than Mailchimp?
So MailChimp is for how I like to use it and how a lot of other people use it as well, is that's for current clients. That's for your current database, your current clientele, and then you're upselling them, selling them, putting out
Mm.
different offers, different packages. You nurture, to your point, that current client base you have, right? With the cold emails, with Apollo, there's a certain warm up period where, to answer your question, you can't send out a billion emails tomorrow. If you warm up a domain, you're going to get blacklisted, right? What you want to do is send perhaps, five, 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 then work your way up to 10, 10, 10, 10, until you're seeing some success and that email can be quote unquote trusted in the eyes of Google until you can scale from there. So it's
Mm.
all about nurturing and warming that email up the right way and also having a subdomain as well. So what I mean by that, for people who don't know what a subdomain is, it's essentially like my domain is needmomentum.com, Sean at needmomentum.com. I wouldn't send it from that domain because I could trigger the need momentum domain to be blacklisted, right? I don't want that. What I would do is I would say something along the lines of hello.sean at needmomentum.com. And that subdomain is going to protect it to a certain extent and not have it be as
Mm.
easily blacklisted, I should say.
Yeah. Or you could just create another domain, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. So, I mean, theoretically, so you have these contacts, you could import them in MailChimp as like a segmented audience and then send them through that as well, right?
Yeah, you could. I mean, I like to have warm people who are already interested in my stuff for
Okay.
MailChimp. And the reason I do is because we like to text as well, right? Now, with a
Mm.
certain SMS laws, I can't just email, or I'm sorry, I can't just text every Tom, Dick, and Harry, right? I have to
Right.
get consent. That's not how I want it to be. I want to blast out to everybody, but that's the
Mm.
nature that we live in. And it is ethically sound. But
Yeah.
we'll have a warm or hot audience that has bought from us or who wants to buy more, and we'll text them different offers, and that's great. We get, I would say, 3 to 5 deals every single week on certain offers we're putting out, and it's a great thing, man. It's just
Mm.
adding a lot of value in monetizing the audience more.
Yeah. For cold emails, is it just about comes down to like the numbers game? The more you send, the more leads you'll get?
100%. I think if someone doesn't agree with what I just said, and I'm not like a cold email genius over here, but that's from what I've seen. I mean, I've tested so many different things. You need to put up a lot of numbers. And
Hmm.
that's just how it is with cold email. It's the same thing with cold calling, right? If you're not putting those numbers up,
Yeah.
likelihood you actually get a lot of business is very slim.
Yeah. Okay. So we covered emails, we covered cold calling, we covered organic. Let's talk about the ads, right? Tell
Yeah.
us which platforms are bringing you the most leads. What kind of creative are you using? What's working? What kind of hooks work? Tell us about your strategy.
Yeah, for sure. So I'll break this down into two separate buckets, Google and then Meta. So with Google, we're running currently basic search ads for suspended accounts, right? What we'll do is we'll have a currently what we do, it's called fix my Google listing, to your point, making another domain. We'll
Hmm.
drive traffic to that landing page. It'll have the same offer. I think it's like, we're bidding on keywords such as fix my Google listing, reinstate my Google listing, business profile, support, stuff like that, right? They find our landing page. The offer is complete money back guarantee, 100% guarantee or money back refund. Again, going to the offer, right? Because people just want to get this fixed immediately. They don't really care necessarily how much it costs. I have had people who kind of bulk at the price, but it's like if you're getting thousands of dollars of revenue and this is like a big cash cow for you, why would you not want to invest at least 1,000 into this? You know what I mean? That's kind of how I
Hmm.
think about it. So, and we've done over 10,000 cases since 2015. So, I mean, it's not like we're not able to sell that price, but that's what we do on Google. So that's the offer for the most part. Hey, here's what we do. It's a complete money back refund if we're not successful. Here's all of our case studies. We'll have a lot of social proof on that landing page. I'll have a video as well of me and my business partner talking about this. And then the other thing too, which is nice, is we'll have our YouTube videos and channels on the bottom as well. So people can check that out, the different, again, social proof and content with that. And yeah, I mean, that's really what we're doing on Google Ads, I would say, for the most part. With to transition to Meta, with Meta ads, that's a little bit different because there's a lot more targeting involved, I would say, for the most part. So what we do is it's the same offer. It's the absolute same offer. But what we'll do is we'll target people who have an interest in this topic. So digital marketing, business profile suspension, stuff like that, right? And then what we'll do is we'll have creative, funny enough, actually from ChatGPT and AI, that is showing off that offer. 100% money back, 100% guarantee or money back refund, whatever the case is, right? We show a successful business owner who is reinstated and then unhappy business owner who is still suspended, right? We kind of pull on that emotional lever, so to speak,
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, and that's really what we do. I mean, we have different campaigns where we're still running on Meta right now. We're actually, funny enough, going to start running Google ads for some of our photography and virtual tour services with Momentum. But for the suspensions, that's currently what we're doing right now.
Hmm. Have you seen any AI impact to your Google ads? Like a lot less people are going to Google these days. Have you seen a drop
Uh,
in conversions and stuff?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's honestly why a lot of people are going to the local service ads, right?
Hmm.
They've seen a lot of issues with the AI implementation in the search ads, and they're just getting a lot less leads, a lot less clicks. They're spending more money. They're spending more money per conversion. And I mean, listen, just as a blanket statement, the more money you spend on Google ads, the better you will be. But for the average business owner, what's going to be better for them? Is it going to be 1,500 on PPC or 1,500 on LSA? If they're a service based business, I would recommend for them to run Google local service ads because it's a pay per lead platform. They're going to spend on average, just as a general statement from what I've seen, less per conversion, less per lead, less per client. And I don't know, it's a better platform in my opinion.
So local service ads, these are the ones that show up on the Google Maps, or tell us more about it.
Yeah, so pretty much if you guys don't know what local service ads, it's a platform that Google came out with. I think it was back in 2023 or maybe even earlier than that, but it's a pay per lead platform. So again, using the plumbing example, we're using the plumbing example a lot this show. If I was to Google emergency plumber in Philadelphia, what you
Mm,
will see is you will see what was it? You will see four things on that Google search. The first
mm,
thing is you'll see that local service ads search, which is very similar to a Google business profile because you need to sync your Google business
mm,
profile with that. It's going to say sponsored, it's going to show the reviews, the name. The kicker with this is you can't click on the website. You either have to fill out a form or you have to call them. So
mm,
that's where it gets okay. Well, it's actually a lead generating service, a pay per lead, right?
mm,
The next thing you'll see is you will see those sponsored ads, the pay per click option, which we just talked about. It's not, I want to say, for a service based business as successful. I'm not saying it can't be successful. I'm just saying it's not as successful, right? The next thing you'll see is you'll see the organic, I'm sorry, not the organic, the Google business profile searches, right? So you'll see the map pack,
mm,
to your point, you'll see all that stuff. And then right below that, you'll see all of the organic searches, website, site link extensions, all that stuff. So,
mm.
yeah, for my money, it's the best platform around.
Okay. All right. Let's transition to the constraints now. So we earlier in the show we talked about 3 million in revenue. The goal is to get to 10 million. We talked about all these strategies: paid ads, cold calling, organic ads, right? AI, SEO, and whatnot. So tell me about your constraints. Like, what are the current challenges and problems you're facing within the business that's preventing you from getting to 10 million this year?
That's a loaded question. I think it's a couple different things. I mean, to answer your question directly, brother, if we're to get to 10 million this year, we need to dramatically increase our prices. That's without saying. I think, like using the Hermosi example, the first thing is we need to increase our prices exponentially, and we need to solely focus on medium to large enterprise type businesses in that capacity, which, funny enough, is where we're heading. Because I love working with small businesses, man. I really do. But, when they can't pay a $500 invoice, $1,000 invoice, which is like obviously on the lower end for what we do. It's like, do I want to keep chasing that down? No, I don't want to, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is the consistency of the fulfillment. So when it
Mm,
comes down to the retainers, I have different account managers. Now, an account manager might be good with the relationship side, but might not be the best skill set person, right? For me, I want to have the same level of competency in their skill set for a given service, as well as the consistency of how well they are, I guess, on a call or just like their overall persona.
mm,
That consistency, I think, is lacking currently within the agency, which we're working on
mm,
fixing. But it's one of those things that it just takes time to find that those right people, and then you get into the whole process, in my opinion, of onboarding and training them a certain way. But I don't know. I'm innately a believer that people are a certain way and they're hardwired a certain way and they're tough to change. So I'm looking for those people that are just innately how I want them to be. Right.
mm.
That's the second thing. And then the third thing is we just need to do more of everything. I mean, we need to make more videos. We need to spend more on ads. We need to invest more in people. And I think really it's just a time thing. All of this stuff takes time to do. Finding people, finding systems, the funds, sometimes to invest more than you already are into a certain thing. So there's the question of growing too fast, which I think we kind of did in 22 and 23, in my opinion. And now I think in 26, we're at a really, really good point again to hit that 10 million mark, I would say by 2030, by the end of the decade, I would say.
Mm. So, a lot to unpack here. I'm going to start with the two ways to make money, right? Every business, if we want to make more money, there are only two ways to do it. First, we can get more customers, right? Do more ads, acquire more customers. Second way, the bigger way, is to make your existing customers more valuable, right? I mean, it's like a stated, like a general truth to all businesses. Those are the only two ways to make money. So you mentioned consistency of fulfillments. That comes into CS, customer success, right? So tell us about what your current customer success procedure and scripting and strategy looks like.
Yeah. So for customer success, I mean, I think the biggest thing is the first 30 days, right? Doesn't matter if they're doing website, social media ads, it's the onboarding and the expectations that were set. Because, sure, at the end of the day, if something isn't working, okay, whatever. But if you're not setting expectations right in the first 30 days, especially for my agency, they're going to churn. And that's because maybe someone overpromised, we underdelivered. So that's why I really say the first 30 days are very important to have that onboarding call, to have a set checklist of expectations of what we're doing and what we're not doing. Because the other problem sometimes, talking about small business owners not really understanding the whole agreement that we're doing, is they'll think we're doing X, Y, and Z when we're just doing X, because that's what we were hired to do. And
Mm.
that also becomes another question, to your point again, is not getting more customers, but making them more valuable. So upselling them more to a different package. Hermosi, as you know, talks about it. It's like, all right, well, if you're annoyed that we're not doing the service, you're in the wrong package. Here's another package and here's a
Yeah.
more valuable solution, right? So that's really what we like to do. And the other thing I will say is we were lacking that director of customer success, which we now have. She's about
Mm.
6 months in, and it's been fantastic. I mean, our NPS, our net promoter score, has jumped. I think it was at like a 40 something, and now it's close to 70, which
Mm.
is pretty solid. We're getting a lot more Google reviews. We're limiting the amount of disputes we have and the amount of refunds we need to give out. So it's all heading in the right direction, but it's just going to take more consistency and just time to get there.
Yeah. I mean, CS is such a big thing. Like in our own business, right? On the land side, people used to buy land from us, right? They'll sign the owner financing contract, right? And then it'll say it's a 3-year contract. Like when we first started the business, we wouldn't like even like call them. Like we'll be like, all right, everything is fine. Payments are automated. We have this loan management software and everything, right? And then we'll like, all right, so the next checkpoint will be like 3 years from now when it's time to record their deed. And that was such a like foolish mistake looking back, because now we call them like every month. Like we do monthly check-ins, we call them on their birthdays or their anniversaries, and we like offer them like, oh, gift cards and cashback offers to pull cash forward. So that kind of like increased our revenue as well. So the question for you is, how often are you checking in with your existing customers?
So your questions around checking in on how they're currently doing, or is it like just regular updates and reports
Yeah,
on the
I mean,
work?
any kind. So, I mean, one of the things, one of the principles I talk about in my book as well, right? Every opportunity, every interaction that you have with your customer is an opportunity to give value and also to make more offers, right?
Yeah,
Because the more offers you make, the more, revenue you're going to generate. So, yeah, so it's not necessarily doing just check-ins, but also like check-ins and seeing if the product is meeting that, as you talked about expectations. Is product is meeting expectations? Like, do they need more help? Do they need more services? That kind of thing. So how often do you actually interact with the customers after
yeah.
they have signed up?
I'll just tell you my whole playbook. So as soon as they signed up, what we do is we put them on a list of goodies email list, right? So what that is a bunch of bite-sized nuggets for the next 12 months. They'll get every week, or it depends on the frequency, but it's every single week. I would say a couple times a week. I would say a couple times a week, they get emails of, oh, here's a quick free thing you can do to get more leads on YouTube, but like all these free things that they can implement themselves, like do it for you, or do it yourself, rather DIY. And it's one of those things where just the value that we're providing for that's great. So right off the bat, I say, hey, this is what you're getting, blah blah blah, great, cool. The next thing we'll do is we'll have a onboarding call with that client. Now, for agencies, it's actually pretty interesting. The time spent between a contract actually signed and them onboarding is, I want to say, maybe a week or two, right? What I like to do is I like to your point about Hermosi's closing structure, the R, reinforce,
Mm,
I like to reinforce their decision. So, okay, let's do onboarding today. If they just signed, they're like, oh my God, today, like that's too soon. It's like, all right, that's too soon. That's fine, but let's do it tomorrow. They're like, okay, all right. Like, and they kind of understand our philosophy now. They know that we're not playing around. We're here to do serious business, and we're fast, right? That's one of our mantras as well. We're very, very fast. So after that onboarding call, we'll have a email chain, we'll have a text message chain as well, and then we'll have a automated weekly call and weekly report that automatically gets sent out. So if they have any issues, they can text us. If they have any like long-term reporting issues, they can email us. And then we always tell them like, hey, if you have any issues, guys, like please call me directly, but if you want to just talk about it on the call, we have weekly calls every single week with all these clients that they need to, we can talk about and, any issues and go from there. Right. So it's one of those things. It's a very interesting kind of, process because we're front loading a lot of communication, a lot of value up front. And then when someone's, 4 or 6 or 10 months in with us, they're still getting that same level of service. We're not pulling back. And what you said, we're being very cognizant of what's going on in their lives as well. Like, God forbid, if there's a death in the family, we'll send flowers and a card, right? If it's a birthday, hurrah, let's send them some sort of piece of value. You know what I mean?
mm,
And the other thing too is, on the back end of that is I do the same thing with my account managers, the people who are actually
mm,
doing the work for my clients. I have weekly check-ins, monthly one-on-ones. We have an MVP. So whoever's the MVP of that month gets a gift card to wherever they want, right? So
mm,
it's those things that I'm able to reinforce the client's decision with going with our company, as well as the account manager for working for me and doing that work for the client. Because if they say, oh my gosh, I'm getting all this value and all this communication from Sean, why wouldn't I want to keep working and busting my butt and doing really solid work and going that extra mile because I'm going to get incentivized and a lot of value and paid more to do so. So
mm.
that's kind of what we do.
Yeah. So to summarize, so you do the email sequences, which is like automated, right? And
Yep.
then you do for you, I mean, it's front loading of value. You have this orientation call and everything, and then it goes to like weekly group calls that they join, or they may or may not join. Is that what you said?
Yeah. What we do is we implement a mandatory call weekly. So doesn't matter what you're doing, you have to join that call. Because what we like to do is like we're doing the work, we're communicating with you. You as a client, you need to uphold your end of the bargain too. Like, because you can't complain if you're not making meetings. You know what I mean?
Mm,
If I see that John Smith has missed the last 4 meetings and he is complaining and wants to cancel, I'm like, well, listen, man, it's a two-way street. You haven't made a month's worth of calls and you're behind on our current engagement. Let's catch you up. And we need your help because we've been, in that case, probably trying to reach out to you about certain things that we need from you, whether it's photos or this or that. And it's just one of those things. We need the client's input as well as our own. So, yeah.
mm. And to clarify, the purpose of this meeting is to bring them up to speed on all the content and all the progress you have made on their account. Is that it?
Exactly. It's brass tacks. It's to show them we're doing the work and then some that we were hired to do.
Hmm. Okay. So what would be a reason? Like, I mean, it doesn't make sense for them to not join these calls. What
Yeah.
would be a reason for them to not join?
You would think, right? And this is a very interesting topic. A lot of the times people are busy, man. They're like, oh, this is my marketing company. I'm sure they're doing well. But that trust, it can fold, right? Like we need them to join meetings. So
Hmm.
I would say them being busy, I'm not saying they don't take us serious, but they don't prioritize that meeting. That's why we implement that mandatory call. And listen, if people can't make it, okay, that's fine. But it starts to get into a problem when people are missing weekly calls every single week and it's not working out. And let me give you an example. There's a client, I think back in 2025, January of 2025 last year. It's not too far, 1 year removed. And everything was great. We signed them. They were a construction company. We were doing some social media, some ads, some Facebook stuff, right? They were doing great. And it was a 12-month retainer. What happened was, for the first 3 quarters, Q1, Q2, through Q3, everything was fantastic. We were generating them leads. They were growing their business. They bought more trucks. They scaled to commercial instead of just residential. Everything was great. But they grew, in my opinion, too fast to where they needed to have their time spent elsewhere. And they weren't able to make those consistent meetings. So Q4 was actually met with a lot of missed calls on their end. And then Q1 of this year, I actually got a notice saying, hey, we want to cancel. But then I talked to my account manager. I'm like, just out of curiosity, when was the last time they joined a call? I was like, oh my gosh, like, let me check my calendar. It's been several months, right? And that's been the biggest problem, because if there isn't solid communication, I think a client is much more likely to cancel or pause or churn.
Hmm. So it seems like it's a passive arrangement where they have to join the call. Like if they don't join, you like call them like proactively to be like, bro, join the call. Like this
Yeah.
is for you. Are you doing that, or are you just like, all right, well, they don't want to join. We're not gonna push it.
Well, no, we'll reinforce our decision. Like, hey, this is a mandatory call that you have to join. Like, I'll
Hmm.
have my account manager say that. A lot of times it means more coming from me, which is unfortunate, but that's kind of the reality of the nature of the business. If I'm the one who sold them, I'll call them up and be like, yo, dude, like, you got to get on these calls. Oh, Sean, I'm busy. I can't. I'm like, okay, well, you can carve out 5 minutes for us to tell you what's going on. The more
Hmm.
you join, the better it's going to be for your business. And honestly, what I've thought about is doing some sort of an incentivized program for that client for joining
Hmm.
meetings. So what that looks like would be, okay, you join every single call this month, 4 calls, just 4 calls, 30 minutes each, 2 hours, right? Everyone has that time. I don't care what anyone says. You get X amount discount off your next bill or whatever the case is, right? Like just
Hmm.
stuff like that. That's what people want to see, because at the end of the day, we're trying to serve them, and we can only serve them as well as they're allowing us to communicate with, I would say.
Yeah. Maybe have like a rewards system, kind of like every call you join, you get like 100 points. And then if you hit like 10,000 points, you get something of like big value kind of
Yeah.
thing. I mean, we like, for us, we have been doing, when we do these CS calls, to trying to pull cash forward because they're on like a payment plan, we would like incentivize them. Like before, we were like just making calls to check in and see if they want to pay early, and no one would take the offer because it was not juicy enough. But now we started doing, well, we'll give you 5% cash back, right? So some kind of like
Yeah.
gamify it, and the longer they wait to pay it off, the lower the cashback becomes because their principal keeps on going down, right?
Yep.
So we
I like
kind of
that.
like gamified it, and it helped. We also implemented rewards, just like I was suggesting, where like if they join our membership, like the land club, every dollar they spend, we give them like 1 point, and then after it reaches a certain threshold, it becomes valuable and stuff. I think so that might help. Question on the marketing side. When you're doing marketing for them, you're doing these videos, are you using AI to do like those faceless videos, or is it like a real person that's representing their company?
That's a great question. So the best answer I can give you is it depends, right? If I have a client who is looking to grow with AI and use AI in some sort of a capacity, yeah, it won't be the worst idea in the world to use some sort of a Sora video, stuff like that, right? If they're a larger company, I would want to invest maybe in some sort of a spokesperson. Like, for instance, I'll give you an example. We have a client, they're out in Texas, right? And they're a bail bonds company.
Hmm.
And they do pretty well for themselves, like very well. And they're one of our bigger clients. And I was talking to him, and I'm like, listen, man, we got to do a video for you, but we can't just do this video with AI. He wanted to do it with AI. And I'm like, it's not there yet. We're going to get to that point where we can just incorporate it, put in some input, and it's going to spit out something, you know, Shakespearean, right? Something amazing.
Hmm.
Not at that point yet. So what we did was we actually hired a reputable spokesperson, quote unquote, actor to be that face of that company. And then we put together like a very nice, well produced video for him. So there's a time and a place, I think, for everything. It's just, the biggest thing is how you want to be represented online, because the majority of AI videos, especially, it's not there yet. Images,
Hmm.
yeah, they're pretty good, right? Images are good, but video, that's a different beast. And as good as it is now, think about the last couple of years. How
Yeah.
how rudimentary, how basic was it, right? Now
Yeah.
think about what it is now. Think about 2 years from now what it's going to be. It's going to be spectacular, right? So
Yeah.
I'm sure my answer is going to change in the years. I know
Yeah.
it's going to change, but for right now, that's probably what I would recommend.
Yeah. Tell me about your price increase strategy. So you mentioned that's like one of the things, one of the levers you can pull to increase the revenue. How are you thinking about that? Are you thinking like in increments, or are you thinking about making your existing packages more valuable by adding more services so you can charge more? Tell us about that.
It's a good question. It's all of it. I mean, from the certain things that you mentioned, honestly, being very transparent with you, I think there's nothing wrong with taking the current package you have and increasing it 50%, something like that, to see what happens, right? Selling the same type of service and seeing what happens, right? If it's a price thing, if it's too much, you're, in my opinion, not having enough value. So that becomes the question, then how can you subsidize that value to make that 50% increase warranted, right?
Hmm.
Um, for me, it really comes down to not an incremental, but more of a, okay, we're serving, like I mentioned earlier in the show, a lot of small to medium sized businesses, but now we're working with a lot of larger, medium, large businesses. So we need to adjust that pricing where we can ultimately be more valuable. And I'll tell you kind of how we do it, like little certain things that are free for us to fulfill, we would add that for free to that client so they can have a more valuable package. That's one of the ways that we do it too. So an example of that would be for AI SEO. Okay, we're going to take all of your current blogs and see what is needed to rank higher on ChatGPT, stuff like that, and then rewrite them totally for free, whether it's like an auditing tool or whatnot. There's so many different ways that we could take that, for a lot of different services. But I think we need to find out, not just for me, but we need to find out, at least for digital marketers, how can we offer more valuable stuff to our clients that is free for us to give, and it's free. We're not going to charge them any extra, but it's giving more value so we can, charge that
Right.
incremental level. Yeah.
Yeah. So increase, add value to the offer stack, but also find better customers, like bigger customers, so they can afford it. Right.
Yeah, and it's like, that's such a easy thing to say, but it's like, how does that actually shake out, right? Like, what does that actually look like? So for me, we're trying to work with more hospice companies, more healthcare companies, because they're great. I mean, my VP of sales, I've given him a lot of leads over the years that he's closed, and he's made a nice little book of business for himself, I have to say, of all those leads in healthcare. And it's crazy, man. I mean, we're working with these businesses where they don't even dot an I to the quotes that we give them, whereas a small business, they're going to have heart palpitations till next week. Like
Yeah.
they just, it's just a mentality thing. And ultimately, yeah, it is the vehicle you drive. It is the people you try to serve. So the, larger type businesses, it's just a different ballgame for them. Okay. This is what we normally would charge, and there's no problem with it, so it's,
Hmm.
and they're easier clients to deal with as well, because they're not as focused on price, so we can focus more on the work and the actual value we're providing. Not, oh my gosh, I need to see an immediate return now because we have to have it or the business is going to go under. The businesses we're dealing with now, they're millions of dollars in revenue. They have reserves. God forbid if there's like a certain investment period it's going to take. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we talked about the price increase. We talked about selling to better customers or bigger customers. We talked about consistency of fulfillments and how it translates to better CS, customer success services that we're offering. Um, the only thing we didn't talk about, And we obviously talked about doing more, which is like kind of obvious, right? The only thing we didn't touch, and this is like the final thing, is hiring, right? And there's a very specific principle I cover in my book, and I would love to get your thoughts on it as well to see if you agree to that or you have a different take on it, which is um, discretionary effort is earned, not paid for. So, what does that mean? If you when you hire someone, they you say they're working 9 to 5 and they're doing like a decent job, right? So you could pretty much expect anyone you're paying, with certain level of experience to do a decent job 9 to 5. But how do you get them to put discretionary effort? Like if they're working on a with a client, like how do you make them like think through things that will help their client? So for example, when they're taking a shower, when they're watching TV in their off hours, right? When they're like eating, right? How do you have them think through those discretionary effort times when they're not at work, right? So that's something you can't pay for. That's something you have to earn. And how do you earn that? So some strategies would be like, investing in the talent itself, like giving them trainings, giving them encouragements, having one-on-ones with them, basically just like treat them like a customer, giving them value and kind of like not expecting anything in return. And that's when they like start to put in discretionary effort, because then you're like invested in their progress, in their careers, and in just their like work well-being. So tell me, what do you think of that, like that strategy of extracting the discretionary effort out of your employees?
That's well said. So when you say discretionary effort, you're talking about, okay, when they're not working, right? How can we get more from them? I guess is that your
Yeah, like how
okay.
they're still like, because their brain is still churning, right? Even though they're off the clock, they're still may or may not be thinking about work. So if they're like, oh, Sean is like taking so much interest in me, he is like training me, he gives me tips on how I can perform better. So I want to do well for Sean. I want to do like go above and beyond, right?
Yeah,
Because you can see in your team there are certain people who perform really well, and then there are like average performers, right? So the people who perform really well, clearly they're putting in some discretionary effort, right? Maybe they're off the work, they're doing more research so they can perform better at work, right? Kind of thing.
yeah.
So how have you thought about that? Like what do you think of this principle, in and if you can implement it at your work to unlock that discretionary effort?
I think for me, it boils down to two things. The first thing is the types of players that you bring on. Because on a core fundamental level, you could do all the value, all the training in the world. If you have a C player, I don't know if I can get them to an A player, right?
Mm.
I think though, if you have that talent, especially like I'll give you an example. We're trying to hire this Google business profile manager to do a lot of like local SEO and stuff like that, another account manager, right? I'm looking for an A player and I'm going to compensate them as an A player and what they would need, right? I think fundamentally, if I can find an A player who is overall just tenacious, wants to learn, great culture fit, works well with people remotely, because we're a fully remote company, right? So works well online. It's one of those things where they're not coming into an office, so I need to trust them that they're doing the actual work because I can't prove it. I don't have a camera, spying into their house, right? They could be doing anything. So to your point, we need to make sure that, okay, when they're off the clock, they're still, and again, people have free will, they can do whatever they want, Netflix or whatever, but they're enjoying their time with us. So I think the core thing is you need to have a set level of expectation that you need to hire A players. Like you can't cheap out on talent, in my opinion. You can't do it. You're going to pay in the
Mm.
long run. I've paid myself several times by not doing that. So it's a lesson I've learned a couple times now that I won't make again. You have to hire that A player. Once you have that A player, which gets into my second point, is to your point, you need to create those level of values. And what I've done with my company is, there's multiple different things. Each account manager has a one-on-one every single month with my company. It's not just like a surface level conversation. It's, hey, what do you want to do? How much money do you want to make? How much time do you want to have? What goals and aspirations do you have? those hard hitting questions, people might not have an answer to, but they think about it and they cognitively think, okay, Sean is asking me these questions because he cares about me and he
Mm.
wants to provide a level of work where, okay, even when I'm not working, because we give them the flexibility, they can work wherever they want, right? They could be in Bali, they can be in Costa Rica, it doesn't matter. As long as they have a Wi-Fi connection, they're Gucci, right? So it's one of those things where we pour so much into our talent with that. So we'll have the one-on-ones. On top of that, we'll have a growth plan for each individual account manager. If they have a monetary amount they want to hit, okay, let's see what we can do to hit that, right? If they have a certain number of clients they want to have with us. Okay, let's talk about that. Whatever the goal is, we make sure that we have that set goal with them because I always want my team members to know that they're valued with working with me. And listen, I have to say, we have a 100% score on Glassdoor, 65 out of 65 people left a 5-star review. And I'm really happy with that. Like all the hundreds of reviews we've gotten on Google My Business, great. But the 65 reviews, I actually really value that more, honestly, than the couple hundred reviews. So it's so easily said, man, but to where you have everything be very consistent and organized with those one-on-one calls and with creating that game plan for that person, especially if you're compensating them well, I don't think you can miss. I really don't. So that's,
Mm.
kind of, I don't know if that was too like a surface level answer, but that's really what I like to do. I treat my account managers like I would treat a client. I check in with them. If we talked about the ball game, I mentioned that like on our next call. Like it's those things that I remember that
Mm.
let people know that I care about them. I like to have a relationship that is, a little playful, right? Obviously I'm not necessarily friends with these people, best friends with these people. They're my colleagues, but I want them to know this is a fun environment. It's cool. And they can really enjoy themselves and feel comfortable as well, right?
Mm.
Because that's the other thing. So yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, it seems like we're saying the same things, but the main thing you kind of pointed out, if you from right out of the gate, if you hired an A player, it's much easier to unlock discretionary effort, right? So that was your thing, right?
yeah,
Um, I think we covered pretty much everything. I think it was a well-rounded podcast, and I hope we provided enough value to our audiences. Uh, but if someone is interested in reaching out to you, Sean, maybe they want to hire your services, maybe they want to fix their broken Google business profile. What's the best way? What's the best way to reach out?
absolutely. So what I recommend, guys, is you want to go to my YouTube channel, Momentum 360. There's a lot of free stuff on there. As much as I would love to, help you guys and have you become a client, see if you can get some free value out of that. Fix the profile yourself, grow your business. If you do need help, I leave my contact information in those videos. But Momentum 360 on YouTube, check it out, and hopefully get some value.
Sean, this has been great. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.